Thanks, Todd. Well, nearly 50,000 troops stationed in expensive cities like Washington, D.C. are said to lose out on a cost-of-living stipend meant to help them pay their bills. Joining me now, author of Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain, Armed Forces Reserves veteran and candidate for U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania, Kathy Barnette. And Kathy, thanks so much for joining us today. And this stipend, it's a specific cost of living allowance which is given to troops stationed in excessively expensive areas, including 15 metropolitan housing areas which have now been cut, 21 non-metro areas cut. So these troops will no longer be getting that stipend, which is given when non-housing costs exceed 8% above the national average. The stipend, by the way, is only 1%, so it wouldn't even have covered their costs. But what do you make of this? What does it say about the administration's treatment of the military?
Yes, thank you so much for having me on. I mean, what can you say about this? I think we can add this to the long list of grievances that we have with the Biden administration and how they have dealt with our service members, starting all the way back to his inauguration on January 20th. Remember that when they brought in our service members in order to protect them from some impending insurrectionists. And when they were done with their photo ops and done with our service members, they just threw them into open garages and let them fend for themselves. We can look at how they exited Afghanistan, 13 members of our service, of our armed forces, losing their lives for that was completely unavoidable, and yet they lost their lives as a direct result of the failed policies of this administration. And now we have our service members once more sacrificing, putting their families out here, and the federal government sending them to these very expensive cities, and now removing a very small stipend, as you've already indicated. Again, we can add this to the long list of grievances, especially when you're looking at the cost of inflation going up, the cost of electricity up 33% year over year.
And Kathy, what do you think something like this does for troop morale or even troop recruitment?
It lowers it, but this is just one of many things that will lower it. What I just mentioned a few moments ago of the long list of grievances that we can add to this administration and how they have treated our services. Again, look at the CPI. I was looking at it last night, the Consumer Price Index. The cost of living is so much higher, and this particular stipend, although small, covers non-housing expenses, food, energy, gas, all of which are a direct result of the failed policies of this administration.
And as you say, it was very small indeed. And you mentioned Afghanistan and the withdrawal earlier. Well, Vice President Harris is now trying to pass the blame for that Afghanistan withdrawal to the last administration. Here's what the Vice President had to say.
I fully supported the president's decision, and I think it's really important to remember that the previous administration negotiated a deal with the Taliban, and right now I strongly believe that had we broken that agreement, we would be talking about the war in Afghanistan.
What do you make of that? There she is passing the blame, and nothing to do with her or the administration.
Right, exactly. Well, what else are Democrats going to run on next year? They can't run on the high inflation. They can't run on their mistreatment of our soldiers. They can't run on high energy prices or how or any of those things. So what else are they going to run on except to pivot and to try to blame Donald Trump? But what is the cost of their poor decisions? Look around at our foreign, at the nations around us. We had peace in the Middle East, and now we don't. The Abraham Accord, who would have ever thought that that would have been achieved? And now we have very key members walking out of the Abraham Accord. We have Russia and China have now entered into an agreement, both economic and military agreement. We have Iran flexing their muscles. Our world is a less safer world as a direct result of the Biden-Harris administration. None of the things we are contending with are as a result of natural occurrences. They are a direct result of the inferior leadership of this administration.
And you list a very long list there. Kathy Barnette, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today, but thank you for joining us. Senate candidate in Pennsylvania, best of luck. Thank you. Todd?
Thank you.